Does your mindset fit what you're selling? I had somebody on a few weeks ago that had a hyper competitive mindset, and that motivated her, and it works for her. Today, we've got a very different mindset, somebody who's more patient, more optimistic about investing in clients, developing relationships, developing trust, uh, trying everything he can to be there at the right time when the trigger is pulled as far as the need for what he does. What he sells can be viewed as a commodity, like everything that we sell. That's the default. Nobody wants to think that you're unique because that gives all them the power. And this mindset, I was leery at first, but then I found out we have a similar background. He was a baseball pitcher, and if you've ever been a baseball pitcher or you played in Little League, at least when I did, you have half the people there yelling at you, degrading you, trying to throw you off balance, and then the other half cheering you on. So it's a very bipolar position, and you're throwing a ball, basically. And when you talk about a performance, that's a performance. It's throwing it into the strike zone so that the other person can't hit the ball. That's the objective. Seems simple, doesn't it? Let's get into this interview. I think you'll like this person. I liked the interview quite a bit, not just because we had things in common, but the perspective was very empowering. Very much how to, get up every day, do the job, and stay even keeled without it throwing us off. Now, this is hard to do, and a lot of us never get over this. And like even now, I'm sure you get people yelling at you, maybe not directly, but indirectly, online, through email. And how do you react to that? What meaning do you give it? Is the distinction between you being able to be successful and failing. Hey, if you're in the courses, make sure you're checking out the one-on-ones and the office hours because we're now getting the success stories, the people who had doubts and are now getting unbelievable conversations started. The mindset has shifted from the pitch to the conversation because most of what we sell requires a conversation, not a commercial. We all have been focused on the commercial too long, and everyone's kind of numb to it, kind of annoyed by it. But most people enjoy a conversation, talking about their favorite subject, themselves. And that skill is a skill, much like pitching, that takes development, takes practice, takes focus, and takes a mindset. Let's get into it. I'll sum it up at the end and give everybody an update on the courses. Here we go. Hey, Shawn, welcome to the show. As way getting started, tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me, Brian. My name's Shawn Ryan. Been in technology sales for about 7 years, and I'm from originally Stillwater, New York, but I've moved up to Burlington, Vermont with a acquisition and merger in my last company, and that's how I kind of found myself here. But I currently work for Wally Computer Associates, and we're one of the largest value-added resellers of technology, hardware, software, and services in New England.
Cool. How do you like Vermont?
I love Vermont. I mean, the people here are really, really genuine, nice people, and it's really been refreshing. Just calling on Vermont and talking to people, and they're just really friendly up here.
Yeah, cool. And what do you like about sales?
I think it's really comes down to helping people. My background. I was in sports athlete my whole life. I played, baseball all the way up until I was about 25 years old. So I kind of got a late start into sales. But, I think some of helping people comes from being a great teammate and, always trying to find out what you can do to kind of help the team out. So I think that's kind of the approach that I take to customers is I want to be, a teammate of theirs, someone that they can rely on to help them out in a squeeze or a tough time. So.
And what's a sale like? Do you have a lot of existing customers that you're upselling, or is it a lot of greenfield customers?
So when I first moved up here with my previous company, it was, a net new territory. We did acquire a business that had a few clients, but I've been in a net new territory for probably the last 5 years up here. So it's really acquiring a lot of new customers, telling them who we are, because Wally Computer Associates is also expanding into the area. I'm a remote worker for them as well. So, telling people about what we do, and you know, trying to find ways that I can help them out. With Wally Computer Associates, we just carry so many different products and technologies and softwares that I just want to be a person that you can say, hey, I heard about this new technology. Can you give me some information on it? Sure, let me connect you. We work with all the largest distributors in the world, so we can have access to that information. And in Vermont, if you know it a little bit, it's a rural place. There's not a ton of population up here, so any value you can bring to them, there's it's normally very appreciated.
You know, and a lot of small, medium-sized businesses. Is that your market,
Yeah, I
or?
mean, it's all small, medium size. I mean, it was funny. I was talking to a manufacturer rep the other day, and they were telling me their tiers of sizes of companies, and I'm like, I guess I don't even fall into a large, company in the whole state. So, my big customers are K through 12. I work a lot with school districts, and it's really been really rewarding during this time period because schools have been scrambling for all kinds of different technologies, how to transition to hybrid schools.
Yep.
What do we do? So a lot of conversations around helping schools out.
What's the hardest part of the job?
Um, Getting answers from manufacturer reps for my customers. It's you got to stay on them. It's a lot of persistent, a lot of phone calls, because you're always trying to beat them up for the best pricing for your customer. And you know, working with K through 12 a lot, there's obviously different funding
Margin.
vehicles,
Yeah.
a lot of different funding that comes from different angles. For instance, in New York, you have a lot of funding for the schools that is readily available. In Vermont, you got to get a little bit more um, creative in the
Yeah.
ways you find funding for things. So beating up the manufacturers, trying to get them the best prices possible. I'm sure they probably won't like to hear this, but that's my job, is to work for my customer.
And a lot of people kind of in your space, since you have so many things that you could do, how do you focus on what you do?
So, it's funny. I do get a lot of training on trying to go through all the different product lines that we offer, all the different services we offer. But a lot of it comes down to, you know, having a human conversation. I'm trying to make the connection to where they are comfortable with me. They understand that I'm not really trying to just sell them stuff to sell them stuff. We really try to come across as vendor agnostic. We try to give customers quality solutions without pushing a certain brand or certain, you know, hardware. I think that's where I can bring the most value to my customers. Hey, we offer everything. If you want to test out 3 different interactive boards, I can get you, 3 different demos on the interactive boards. If you want to test out different types of PCs, we can do that for you as well. Um, Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So, it really is a conversations, that we have with the customer. Hey, where are your pain points? What are you having trouble with? Where can we fit in? Because we know that they have current vendors that they work with that they're happy with. So we're really looking for a way to help them with something they're not having the greatest time with. They're not getting the response that they'd like. And if you do well enough in those areas of the opportunities they give you, they normally give you more opportunities. So I think that's where I've had my most success in expanding my business, is taking those little opportunities they give me, try to turn around something quick for them, and just being available for them when they need it. Um, and I try to add value. I think giving customers value, before asking for something back, is really
Yeah.
important. emails out there, hey, did you know the COVID, or CARES Act money is ending 12/31? Please get your orders in. It doesn't have to be to me, but get your money in, like spend the money that they're offering you,
Yeah.
um, so
And what were some of the lessons you learned coming up in sales that you wish you learned a lot earlier?
don't burn any bridges.
Yeah.
No matter how much, you might not connect with a customer or a boss, a manager. The ones you burn, they really find a way. They seem
To
to
burn
find
you
you.
back.
They definitely seem a way to find you in the end. So, I think ultimately just try to treat people the way that you'd like to be treated, and, don't burn any bridges.
Yeah. And do you work by yourself or is there a team there?
I have an inside counterpart. I was doing a lot of traveling prior to the pandemic. I'm a big fan of, visiting my customers and saying hello. I enjoy the road time. But it's getting a little stir crazy in
I
my
bet.
bedroom office. So, it's I don't get out much. I have my inside counterpart who keeps me generally sane, and she does an amazing job for me and helping me turn around quotes for my customers. So she's really, between her and my manager, we have, weekly connects, but that's about my full team.
And do you get any inbound?
We do have a great business development team, and they do make a lot of phone calls. So I get a couple, inbound leads. It's not a ton, and it's normally, hey, it's a meeting, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
Let's talk to you about what we offer and see if there's any ways that we can help you. But as far as like an inbound lead, like I need something specific, it's normally, hey, let's talk, let's see, where you're headed, what your needs are going to be. Try to be more of a consultant
Yeah.
in that respect.
And do they typically know what they need or they typically
They have a
want
general
the,
idea what they need. I deal with a lot of IT directors, CIOs, smart people, and a lot of the times they have a lot more technical expertise than I do, because there's only so many things that I can kind of take in at once, because of the vast amount of products that we offer. So, a lot of the times, I go in initially, delve in with some questioning, and then I have to go back to my, stable of engineers and experts and solution architects and say, okay, I need, Jim, John, and Joe, and they're going to come in and talk about networking with you, and then talk about maybe your data center and how we can give you a good technology roadmap to bring you into the future. And that future's changed drastically in the last year, so
yeah.
it is really important.
And how about like the purchasing cycle? I'm sure with public sector, state and local, K through 12 is kind of the hardest, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you definitely have to know all the cycles, and it's obviously it's part of the questioning. It's, hey, when's your fiscal year? When do you start budgeting for next year? What are your capital projects? With the school, it definitely is important to know when those different budgeting periods are coming. And for the most part, they're generally the same, but you definitely have to make notes to yourself to say, or you'll get the phone call and say, hey, I told you we're not doing budget till 2 months from now, or 3 months from now. Give me a call then, or things like
Yeah.
that. So, yeah.
And how do you stay out of like the price trap of you're not the cheapest or just taking your quote and sending it to everybody?
I try to, I guess, kill them with kindness. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that at the end of the day, they realize I'm a local guy that's going to work hard for them. And, the guilt of me saying, honestly, at the end of the day, I don't have any problem with you telling me we went with someone else. You can tell me you gave my price to someone else, but I'm going to say, hey, thank you for the opportunity. I hope you give me another opportunity. I'll be here for you. Because I think eventually if you stay loyal to people, and you're always doing good by them, they're eventually going to see that, or they're going to feel guilty.
Yeah. Right. Because at the end of the day, it's not their money,
Yeah,
but it
exactly.
is
And
their job.
exactly. And you just try to be likable. I think I don't like to get into the price game and say bad things about anyone. I'm just trying to put my best foot forward for you. And if you don't like it, that's fine. I'll keep giving you quotes, and I'll keep working hard for you, and that's all I can do.
Yeah. That's a good attitude.
Yeah.
Did it take a while to develop that, or is that something you've always had?
I
Or
think it comes from baseball. I mean,
yeah,
baseball is a game of failure. If you're successful 3 out of 10 times, or if you're good 3 out of 10 times, you're a Hall of Famer. I feel like a lot of my ability to kind of just move on from a loss or move on from that comes from baseball, because it really is. I consider it the game of life, because of all the failure that's involved, and the mental strength that's involved to kind of compete in that. So I've kind of brought that, in the same respect. It's, how many times have you been watching a sports, event, and umpire makes a bad call and guy loses his mind on him, and how many times have you seen that referee or umpire change their call?
never.
It doesn't, it's counterproductive. At most you should be saying, hey, great job, you know maybe take a closer look next time. But to yell and scream, it just makes you look bad. It makes them angry at you, and it's bad. So I kind
Accomplishes
of bring
nothing.
that approach to sales. It's, hey, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to make you feel bad, but I'm going to work hard for you. And I feel like I know when I know someone's working hard for me and I do something that might not be on the up and up or completely transparent, I feel guilty. So I kind of take what I'm feeling like with my customers and try to treat them the same way. So,
That emotional regularity, is kind of part of grit, because without it, you really can't have grit,
mhm.
because you get too worked up.
Sure, absolutely. You can't get over that loss. You stir
Yeah.
on it all day. You don't make your phone calls. You don't do your emails. You don't follow up with your other customers. And now you've lost whatever amount of revenue for yourself because you're so focused on your loss.
And and a lot of times, certainly in your space, it's a competition without much control.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that you nailed it. I mean, there's literally no control. I mean, sometimes you'll never know why you lost a deal. I mean, I understand some people, they don't have the ability to just confront you and say, hey, you lost and this is why. I have people that have never called me back again, and even if I call them, they don't want to even talk to me and get a quote again. So it's I'm just like, it's okay. You don't have to feel. I'll even write it in the email. It's okay. You don't have to feel bad. I can handle it. What else can I help you with?
Yeah. And you see this, I see it all on social all the time in my space. It's like you put a post out and someone misunderstands or just hates
hmm
you or is having a bad day and they write some scathing thing. And I used to like fight back. And now if it bothers me, I just delete it. And I
Yeah,
love when they come back. I can't believe you deleted my trolling. Then I delete it again.
that's funny. Try to keep think positive here.
Yeah, instead of getting worked up.
Exactly. No, I totally understand.
What position did you play in baseball?
I was a pitcher. I
Yeah.
was a closer in college. I went to U Albany and I had a pretty good career there. And then I ended up getting signed by an independent baseball team in Quebec City. I ended up playing probably 3 years up there. We won a championship, and ended up meeting my wife, and I ended up bringing her into the country, and now we live in Burlington, and we're close to Canada, so she can see her family, and so that's kind of the route that I took, and to get here.
Well, I was a pitcher too in
Oh,
Little League.
nice,
Well,
nice.
it's one of those unique positions as a kid, because I don't know what it was like when you were doing it, but it was completely acceptable and encouraged to yell at the pitcher while the pitcher was getting ready to throw
hmm
the ball.
Absolutely.
It was still the same thing.
Well, it any way you can. I mean, shaking the fence in Little League. I mean,
Yelling, whiff, whiff,
yelling.
whiff. Yeah,
Yeah.
all these,
Oh.
right? So you had to like, it was hyper focused.
hmm
And then if you threw a ball, then you get made fun of
hmm
or they get a hit and everyone's looking at you. You're the center
The center, and that, yeah, it is the center
of failure.
of attention, center of fail. That's a better way to put it. I mean, I was out in Fargo, North Dakota, and we ended up having to play a game against the Kansas City T-Bones. I don't know. So the Kansas City T-Bones. So we went down there, and it was fireworks night. There's 14,000 people there. There's people lined up on the hills and everything, and it's second start against them in a week. And I had a pretty good outing in our home field. So I'm going to them, and you go back to the distraction, people yelling at you. I get out there in the first inning, and there's a heckler in the first row that knows almost everything about me, and he's taking shots at me almost every pitch, and that was one of the games I didn't do as well as I had in the past. I was nervous. I got through about 4 innings, didn't give up a ton of runs, but I had thrown a lot of pitches, walked a lot of guys, and but that's my story. You're right. It's always a constant distraction.
Right, because it's 100% or 95% mental.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's really just throwing a ball into the strike zone.
Yeah, easier said than done sometimes.
Easier said than done.
I'll be the first to admit it. Yes.
And especially when you're a little kid, and you've never been in front of people before, and they're like yelling at you.
Exactly.
Your whole team's counting on you.
Yep. Especially when you get into, I remember going into the tournaments and things like that. You got the parents yelling. I mean, everyone's into it, so it's, I guess, looking back, I guess that is good training to kind of prepare for some of the things that I've kind of done in my life since then.
Yeah, because explanatory system, that's what psychologists call it. And the people who take those things personally versus situationally really have a hard time in sales.
Yeah, it does. Well, it brings me back to another story. When I was getting recruited for college, my baseball coach that was looking at me at the time had come out, and my first warm-up pitch, or not, I don't even think it was my first warm-up pitch. It was my first pitch to the batter that he had seen from me went like 3 feet over the guy's head. But the next, I struck him out in 3 pitches after that. And the thing he said to me, he goes, "I like the way you reacted after you threw the wild pitch." And that was, I don't know. I guess that's just years of practice to that point.
And do you have a particular system, or do you just don't even think about it now?
I think it's my makeup. I'm not sure if it's something I developed. I definitely think it's part of my makeup. And just, I'm good at moving on from things. I think I accept and move on. And I think that's it's really important in baseball and in sales to accept the outcome. And I mean, if you did everything you could do to control the outcome in like what you did for yourself, then there's really nothing to be frustrated or angry about. As long as you put your best foot forward, there's nothing to get hung up about, because you have no control over those other factors. You have no control over the purchaser's cousin's brother works for the manufacturer you're competing against. There's something to that effect, and you'll never know it, and you just have to accept it.
Yeah, because a lot of people do take it personally, or they wrap themselves around the axle of what they could have done better, and sometimes there isn't. Sometimes there is, but a lot of times there isn't.
Yeah.
There's a weird relationship between procurement, either historically or whatever it is, that you're not going to win it no matter what.
No, exactly. It's sometimes you just are never going to win, and a lot of times you'll go in knowing you're not going to win, but you're hoping that at least you put your first foot forward and they remember your name, and that's sales. That's getting into a big account. You never know that instant that the other person, there's a new sales rep and there's a little crack in the door. You just never know. I've had accounts like that where it's just like, hey, we really liked our old guy, but and we probably weren't ever going to leave him, but he left, and you made a great impression on us, and that's why we're reaching out to you. So you never know.
And certainly in your business.
Absolutely.
Right, because it is a good combination of sales and service.
Mm-hmm.
And the win for the client is getting it to work. Yeah. And they'll go with the person who's most likely going to get it to work versus trying to save a couple of dollars for the school district.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's responding. It's just, and I'm not knocking other reps. I just think it's been a little bit harder during this time. There's been a lot more needs of customers, and I was in a position to where I was able to start taking on customers because it's net new. So I think everyone's doing a lot extra these days, and I definitely understand that. So I'm happy that I can help the people that I can, and you know, I hopefully I don't get overwhelmed to the point where my customers start to suffer.
Yeah. And do you struggle with prioritizing your time?
I do a to-do list at the beginning of every day, but it does get kind of messy. By the end of the day, I'm like, what did I get done, and where did I leave off, and then rip off the next one, start preparing for the next day of to-dos. What needs to get done first is at the top, and then obviously that can change as the day goes along, as you get different fires to put out or requests. Hey, I need this quick. Hey, we need to get this out. So the prioritizing of the day kind of starts the night before. You kind of review it in the morning and then add to it, and then kind of do it all over again until I don't think that ever ends, right?
Well, do you do just a linear list, or do
Yeah,
you
just
do, revenue, existing customer,
Oh,
new
I have
customer?
my Excel spreadsheet of best customers, what they've bought, what they're still waiting on quotes for, what they're looking
Yeah.
at, time frames, when it's going to hit for sure. Yeah. But as far
Okay.
as like immediate to-dos, that's on a piece of paper, like
Yeah.
reviewing my Excel spreadsheet and kind of going through everything on that, or the CRM, looking through my notes on there and seeing what's coming around. So yeah, obviously it's a lot of the beginning parts of the day is prepping and who am I going to go after?
And if there's one thing that you could become better at, what would that be?
Prioritizing.
Yeah.
No, I think, in sales, you can get pulled in a lot of directions very
Yes.
easily. Um, so it is important to kind of refer to your to-do list to kind of keep you on track, refer to your spreadsheets that you work or your CRM to find out, when you've touched a customer last, do they need a check-in? But yeah, I think my biggest thing is definitely getting more organized and prioritizing, the right things. And, I think that's something that you have to, constantly focus on. It can easily kind of fall to the side. If you take one day off, you can see it happen, um,
Well, especially in your type of business, lots of customers, lots of little things, lots of coordinating.
yes.
And if you don't prioritize, the day can go by real quick and not
Hmm.
much gets done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's sometimes you wonder where the day went, because you spend your time trying to schedule your meetings and waiting for return emails for the information you're waiting for. And sometimes you can get caught up waiting for that email and not doing something else, or waiting for that pricing, or waiting for, a customer to get back to you to set that meeting. So it's definitely important to stay productive, during the times you're waiting for everything else to happen.
Yeah. And you were going to stay up in Vermont? Is that home for good or?
I really enjoy Vermont. It's not too far from my home base. It's not too far from my wife's home base, and we're literally a mile from Lake Champlain, so we can
Wow.
get over to the lake pretty often. So it's I love it here, to be honest with you. It's good people, good place to be.
And when, junior reps talk to you, what advice do you give them?
What you do today will not reflect next week. It won't reflect 2 weeks from now. It'll happen in most likely 2 to 3 months. So you're not going to see the results of you not doing anything today. And that's scary. When you realize that, it's scary because I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned in the beginning of sales is, you got to build your pipeline. You got to, and all the work you're doing now doesn't happen for 3 months. So I think that it's hard, especially for net new guys, to get that because they don't have anything to hang their hat on currently. So you're constantly working for that next thing. And I think when I actually was a manager, and I did vice president of sales for a little bit. So, I trained a team of 8 sales guys, and that was probably the first thing I told them is no matter what you do, remember that whatever you do today, it won't be reflected until about 2, 3 months. And, you know, if you're having a great month too, it's the same way. It's so easy to take your foot off the pedal, especially for a new person.
Yeah.
You come out gangbusters, you make like 5 or 6 sales in your first month or two. I'm the man, and then the foot comes off the brake. 3 months, you have a 0 on the board, and you're going, what happened? you know.
Yeah, you get yeah, because I always looked at sales as you're either on an upward spiral or a downward
There's no in
spiral.
between.
There's no in between.
No, absolutely. That's pretty spot on, Brian.
And using a baseball analogy, you got to think it's spring training,
Hmm.
right? Because when you're in the playoffs, it's all going to be based off of how well you did in spring training.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, your entire prep, from when you get up in the morning, I mean, you really can trace it back to your habits, I think.
Yes.
It's all, you as I've gotten older in life, I feel like I've seen that a lot of your success comes from like the second you wake up from bed. It's really getting your routine down. If you can
Yes.
get up in the morning at 5:30 and get your run in and get your lift in, you are so more mentally prepared for the rest of the day. You already
Something.
have accomplishing things done. You're on top of the world, and then it reflects in you know, the way you speak, it reflects in your actions, it reflects in the way that you treat people. So I think, routine starting from when you wake up is really, really important for everything in life.
That's it. And a lot of people want to do it like MacGyver, where it's like, throw me into this situation and I'll figure it out. And it's like, yeah, okay. But if you want to be a consistent producer, it's habits,
Habits.
your
It's
system.
Yep, and everyone has a different system that works for them.
Yeah.
It's finding the system that works best, and everybody's different. So, and as a manager too, you got to identify for your salespeople, what works for them. You know.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, it's been a fun conversation, Shawn.
Yeah, definitely.
Where can people go to connect with you?
You can, find me at on LinkedIn, Shawn Ryan on LinkedIn, and SMR at WCA.com is my email. If you have any technology needs, let me know, and I'll work hard for you.
Now, would that mindset work for you? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I think the key is to find the right mindset for your particular personality, where you are right now, where you'd like to go, and who you'd like to become, that also matches the role that you're in. And I think we need to proactively do this. Look at it and see what upsets us. What meaning do we get to that rejection? What do we give that meaning? And how do we become better at it? And I think what helps us the most is understanding the game that we're playing. In this particular game that we were talking about today, timing is critical. Trust is critical. Open line of communication is critical. The best price, the most pressure, maybe not the right mindset to have. And we have to be able to understand where the other person is. And people say, oh, that's obvious. Well, is it? Are you doing it? Everything is obvious once someone tells you. What isn't obvious is before someone tells you. The key is to know it before you need it. After you need it, it's too late. Meaning, when I say where they are, I mean, where are they relative to buying what you're selling, needing what you're selling, being curious about it, being in active pain about it? Most of us, or at least the guys, don't go to a doctor until they have to. When it's active pain, it might not be the smartest thing. I admit it. I'm one of you. But that's the way we roll. And some of our customers are like that. So we can either wait or build up the rapport so that we have the chance to elicit those symptoms, to turn that from latent pain into active pain, to play the time game, meaning that we escalate or accelerate the time so that it becomes a higher and higher priority. I hope you enjoyed this interview. These traits and characteristics, mindsets and strategies is what I teach in the course. And it's not just an online course with content. And nor is it somebody who has failed at success. I enjoyed sales. I had enormous success at it. I got burnt out working for other people. But I love talking about it. I love helping other people. And I love doing it today. Working on deals with people, working on my own deals, and really trying to master the game. You're never there. And that's both disappointing in that it's not like a math equation that you figured it out. It's more like pitching, where you practice and practice and practice, and then in that moment is the moment that it counts. All that warm up, all those years of practice, all that mindset comes down to that pitch. Maybe the word pitch isn't the right word in this. It's much more about conversations. It's much more about building up a know, like, and trust relationship with the other people. Because if they don't talk to us, they're either going to need us or not need us, and the default is not need us. So what we want to do is have them talk to us and develop that need. That's where the fun is. Also, don't you hate wasting time? If I told you you're going to waste half to 3/4 of your time, you wouldn't believe me. Well, look at last year. Save those forecasts. Save that pipeline. In there is the master's degree of where deals die, where your time was misallocated. How do you become better? We all do. Even me, even now, even still. We waste time on deals that are not going to close, some that are even unclosable. And the point is not to work on just the ones that are going to close. The point is to work on them in the right order so that you put the energy on the ones that can and will close and steal the energy away from the ones that might or could close. If you get to them, great, and they close, fantastic. But what we tend to do is take the time away from the deals that can and will and give them to the could or should. And that can be a mistake. And we pay for it in lost commission and opportunity cost. And in sales, your opportunity cost is your number one expense by far. It's not your new MacBook. It's not your new car. It's not your new house. Those are peanuts compared to your opportunity cost of what you could have done if you allocated your time and resources appropriately on the deals that can and should close, and how to guide them through it. Instead of being on the outside looking in, be on the inside guiding how. That's what a master salesperson does. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes skill and ability, it takes confidence and determination. It takes a lot. It's a very complex thing. Now, somebody said, well, talk more about what the complex sale is. Hopefully you're in it because that's where the money is. A complex sale is many different decisions to be made, many different people involved, long time gaps in between communication, meaning it's not a show up and buy or don't buy. Buying a car is relatively a simple sale. They say if the person leaves the lot that day, the likelihood of coming back is only like 2%. I was the exception to that. But most likely, and that's true, because they tend to go to somewhere else and that other person will undercut it by $100 and get them to buy the car. Even a house is a kind of a complex sale. You got typically a family is making the decision, or at least it's you and your bank making the decision. There are time gaps. There's a lot of administrative things. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. How complex is your sale versus a simple sale? And how well are you playing that game versus just reacting to requests from the person buying or the people buying? Are you single-threaded? Why are those deals dying? How many of them could be converted to a win? How many of them are starting over or just delayed? Not now. Not now is the number one objection we get. And not now means you don't get paid anything. Congratulations. And you know what? Your manager doesn't care either. The bank doesn't care. All those goals that you had, they don't care. Focus on how to close them now. So the courses are not simply online content. There's tons of it, lots of examples, lots of conversations, lots of one-on-ones, lots of office hours. You get to talk with other people during office hours every other Friday. You get one-on-ones, and you get to hear other one-on-ones. None of it's proprietary. No one needs to know your name, your product, your company, or your customer. It doesn't matter. Yes, it may matter to you, but as far as strategy, it doesn't matter. You're going to run into the same things, no matter what product it is, what customer it is. Are you planning for them? They're independent of what you sell. Everyone gets, oh, my situation's unique. 10% of it's unique, 90% of it is pretty much boilerplate with consistent traps that we all fall into because they're so easy and delicious to fall into. And like all traps, difficult, near impossible to get out of. So why not prevent getting into them and save yourself and make yourself a ton of money this year? It's your year. It's going to go by whether you enjoy it or not. It's going to go by whether you crush it or not. It's your decision. Which will it be? We'll see you next time. If you see my content fly by on LinkedIn, give it a little like, a little comment, a little share. Tell a friend about the show. Make sure you're checking out the other podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, B2B Revenue Leadership Show, and the Sales Leadership Show. There's enough shows out there. And there's a ton of great content on my YouTube channel. Just search Brian Burns Sales on YouTube. There, it'll show up. Lots of comedy, lots of entertainment, lots of lessons. We'll see you next time. No, I will do more if you give me a raise. Well, you don't get a raise unless you do more. And I always had this equation because I had this manager who once said his objective was get paid the most for doing the least. And I go, what a losing strategy. Because the other person is like, well, wait a second. I keep paying more and I'm getting less. So what do they want to do? They want to pay less. But then there's that one employee who goes above and beyond, way outside their pay grade. And it may not happen, but a lot of times someone recognizes that and gives them a chance, and pays them more than they're worth, gives them an opportunity. Now, with prospects and customers, it definitely works that way. If you're waiting for them to buy before you do, this is what falls apart. And I've had this argument pretty much with most startups I went to, because what they would want to do is, well, why don't you get them to pay for the POC, the proof of concept, the technical sale? And I go, do you realize that's a whole sales process to get a very small amount of money? And what happens if our competitor doesn't require to get paid for it? And I made a lot of money early in my career by just ignoring that and doing the proof of concept kind of underneath the radar, you might say. And you know what? Got deal after deal. Now, you can't do it every time. You do it judiciously. You do it on the best and the most likely deals to close. And you don't do it to be busy. And you don't do it out of charity. You do it because it is the way to stay engaged with the client. It is helping. It is giving. And the devil is in the details, meaning you got to do it right in the right way. But sitting back and doing this transaction thing, I will do it once you do this. Now, don't confuse this with not asking for something. But we typically have to give in sales first, and more than we anticipate. And it tends to come back, not 100% of the time, which is another thing that people confuse in selling and with people in general. Absolutely nothing works 100% of the time with people. If you can get above 50%, you're going to be rich. And what happens is our psychology goes, well, wait a second, it didn't work. Maybe I did it wrong. Maybe you did. Or maybe you did it with the wrong person, or the wrong day, or the wrong way. In the complex sale, we have to find these first principles. The first principles of what really will get the deal moving. Now, in this interview, I hope you picked up the distinctions of if you're making these types of investments, people use the word qualify, but qualify kind of implies that they have to have a lot of skin in the game. But it can be very different. Okay, are they big enough to be able to afford what you're doing? Do they have the problem that you solve? Are they the type of people and company that will be willing to make this and change an investment? And these are judgment calls. These are not checklists. And I hear a lot of people talking about these checklist sales processes. Now, they're not bad, they're just incomplete. And if you go off of the checklist and it doesn't close, is the checklist wrong? Well, it's incomplete. It's not wrong. You checked everything. And people can argue about it. The point is you have to make these judgment calls. You have to give. You have to look for problems and solve them. And if you're looking for a guarantee, you're in the wrong job. Go become an accountant. Go do something that has a guarantee in it. We're at risk, so we have to be hyper-focused, hyper-diligent, and really think through our strategy. So, Brian, how do I learn all this? Well, you can listen to the platitudes and the comfort zone responses that I always just look at the comments I get on my posts. 80% of them are platitudes, meaning that it's just stimulus response. There's no thought that goes into it. Thought is where the power is. Thought is the understanding. In winning the complex sale, you learn exactly how to win these types of deals, how they work internally inside their company, and how you lead them through the process. And I talked to a lot of people. I just did a ton of sales kickoffs and talking to a lot of very experienced reps. And the challenge you have as a rep is you're too close to it. You're in the game. You can't see how the game's being played because you're so emotionally focused and involved in it. So am I. And that you need to take a step back. Look at the whole terrain. Where are you? Who are the players? What's the timeline look like? Why would they do it? Where are the traps? How do I avoid them? How do I guide them through this process and really analyze it? Because if you win, there's a lot of gold at the end of that rainbow. And if you lose, there's an enormous waste of time. Hopefully you'll learn from it. You pay the tuition. Did you get the lesson? Winning the complex sale gives it to you. And people go, well, what's the ROI on it? Well, ask yourself, how many of those deals closed? Look at last year's forecast. Save those old forecasts. They are lessons. They are pure gold. And look at them. Most people, it's like 25 to 40% close. So that means 75 to 60% of your time is wasted. Now take your on-target earnings, not the number that the company gives you on the comp plan, the number you want to make. Say you want to make $500K and you're only closing half of them. You're making $250, okay? Sounds good, doesn't it? That's a good amount of money, but you could have made $500. And you could have had more fun. And you didn't waste your time. And you didn't get those terrible disappointments when you didn't close the deal. Sound good? Also, if you're start the conversation, get the meeting, make sure you're checking out the one-on-ones. There's pure gold there when you watch people go through, because first step is denial, especially with reps. Entrepreneurs pick this up immediately because there's no bad habits. Experienced reps and the most experienced fight it the most because It's not because they're difficult. It's because they're so ingrained in the pitch, in the get the meeting, get that 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour demo, that they forget that you need to build. You got to start where they are, not where you are, and make them come to you. They're not going to come to you. If they were going to come to you, they already would have, or they will someday. Our job is to start where they are and build up. And if you listen to the progression, these are all real reps going through really difficult situations. There's nobody in the course selling something that's easy, nor are they at a big brand name where it's just a walk in the door or an upsell. These are getting meetings with very difficult competitive roles and people kind of above, trying to really sell complex stuff, new stuff. And you get to hear that pattern over and over again. And then when you get a breakthrough and you get the smile on their face and they get their first deal or their first meeting with an executive they only dreamed of getting before, and they stop wasting their time going from one meeting a week to 10 or 20 and just have it in a system, boom, 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 becomes unconsciously competent at it after a while. Because the hard part is the change. The hard part is not doing it. The hard part is the change in mindset. But it has to take place. Just like what we heard today in this interview. The giving, the helping, that is counterintuitive. And it's not helping just for helping's sake. It's helping that builds that trust, that connection with that other person, that reciprocation that they feel unconsciously compelled to do. So make sure you're checking out the courses at b2brevenue.com. Everybody who shares my content on LinkedIn, likes it, comments on it, give it a little thumbs up. Oh, you're friends for life. Also, check out the other podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, The Sales Leadership Show, B2B Revenue Leadership. This is nothing but pure gold out there. I'm here working for you 24/7. We'll see you next time.